Oh hey, welcome back. I've been reviewing offset bridges for a couple of years now, and there's two bridges that I'm always asked about more than any others. Both of these bridges sit in the £100 to £135 price bracket, and for many people, this is the ultimate sweet spot that offers high quality handmade aftermarket hardware with a sensible and relatively affordable price tag. Those two bridges are the Bensonite and the High Spirit. But there's actually a third bridge in this price bracket that everyone is sleeping on. The Trent Guitars Offset Bridge. And you're missing out. If you don't know who Trent Guitars are, you should go back and check out my review of the Trent Guitars Offset Vibrato. However, to briefly summarize, Trent Guitars are based here in the UK and they offer super high quality, handmade, environmentally conscious offset guitars and hardware, and they are probably played by some of your favorite artists and creators. Elliot makes everything in-house, often using vintage tooling and machines, and he is a true artist. He's also passionate about rocking offset bridges, and that is where this comes in. One of the things I love about Elliot's hardware is the videos he makes showing how he creates each component of his bridges and vibratos, like this. For me, watching these videos makes the bridge so special because you can really see how much work and precision goes into creating each one. And I love the fact that these are made from scratch, by hand, by a bloke who loves offset guitars and rocking bridges in a workshop in the UK where all sorts of beautiful and magical things are created. It just feels very real and tangible in a world where discerning reality is becoming harder and harder. Are you drowning in a world of AI, fake news, lying politicians, social media, and all of the other things that try to destabilize us on a daily basis? Well, grab one of these bridges. Feel all the work that has gone into carefully crafting it by hand from raw materials. Perceive its reality and be grounded. That's how I feel anyway. Alright, so this bridge is real and solid, and it might ground you in a world of destabilizing confusion. But is it actually a good offset bridge, and what are the specs? Well, the Trent Guitars Offset Bridge is an all-original design featuring a super high quality, 2mm thick, 303 stainless steel folded base with 303 stainless steel saddles and legs. It has an all-original 3-saddle design with U-shaped grooves in the saddles and a bead blasted finish for superior grip on the string to ensure that the bridge rocks as reliably as possible. Also, the G saddle can be flipped over for players using a wound G string. Technically, it's not locking because you can't lock and unlock the bridge, but it uses locking nuts in the leg assembly so that the bridge will never lower or sink over time. It also comes with its own thimbles included, again lovingly handmade by Elliot from a solid block of 303 steel. So, in theory, from the specs, we should be expecting a reasonably high quality bridge that rocks pretty well and sounds pretty similar to any other stainless steel bridge. But how does it actually work in reality? Okay, so starting with my first impressions, when I first took the bridge out of the really nice recyclable packaging, the first thing that I noticed immediately was the saddles. And specifically that these are the grippiest saddles I've ever felt in my entire life. The Bensonite bridge also features bead blasted saddles, but these saddles on the Trent bridge are in another universe of grippiness. Secondly, even with all the height adjustment screws for the saddles set to their lowest point, none of them were sticking out above the surface of the saddle. Nobody else seems to do this, and usually with a 7¼ inch fretboard radius, I actually completely remove the outer 2 height adjustment screws because having the saddles set with a curvy enough radius means that the outer 2 have to be set really low, and this means that the grub screw is sticking out the top of the saddle and digging in your hand, and it's really annoying, so I normally just completely remove those outer 2 grub screws. However, Elliot has clearly really thought this through, and I'm so happy about that, and that won't be a problem with this bridge whatsoever. It should make for a really comfortable playing experience. The third thing that I noticed is that the saddle height and the bridge leg height use the same size Allen key, and this is so logical. Often when you get a new bridge, you get 3 different sizes of Allen keys, and you just throw them in your tin of Allen keys, and then you can never find the right one to adjust the bridge, and it's so annoying. Whereas this makes so much sense that the height for the saddle and the leg uses the same Allen key, and again, I just think that shows how much this has been thought through, how practical it is and easy to use, and I just think that is a great feature. Fourthly, this bridge actually has 54mm string spacing, and when I threw it on the guitar, I could immediately tell the difference, that the string spacing was just a touch wider. It wasn't a bad thing, but I could feel the difference. The strings still fit nicely on the fretboard, and they're not at risk of falling off the edges at all, even with a vintage skinny nut width. So you can feel it, but it's not a bad thing at all. Then I tried the bridge on a couple of different guitars to see what the tone of the bridge was like and how it differed from the bridges that were on there already. First, I put it on my Sparkle Jag, which had the High Spirit bridge on up until that point. I noticed straight away that the Trent bridge made the guitar brighter, and it added way more low end to the acoustic sound of the guitar as well. It made the guitar sound sparkly and way more twangy and punchy. Next, I threw it on this Purple Jag, which had the Tuffset bridge on before this. The Trent bridge really made the guitar a lot brighter and sparklier. It added a ton of low-end chunk, and it really made the guitar way more twangy as well. it simultaneously really brightened up and really chunked up the sound of this guitar. Just a quick note on setup. The Trent Guitars Offset Bridge is really easy to install and set up, but I learned two important lessons. Firstly, the legs of the bridge are just slightly wider than a traditional offset bridge, and this means that they are just a hair too wide to work with a Fender mute. So if you're getting this guitar to use with a traditional Fender Jaguar or a Bass 6, you will need to ever so slightly enlarge the holes on your mute plate in order to use the Trent Offset Bridge. The second lesson that I learned is that it's really important to manually set each height adjustment screw for the saddles. Because when I got it, all 6 of the grub screws for the saddle height adjustment were set below the surface or below the top of the saddle, it didn't occur to me at all to adjust the outer 2 grub screws. However, these outer 2 grubs weren't making contact with the base plate of the bridge, and therefore didn't have the full amount of tension on them that they were designed to have. This resulted in a tiny amount of buzzing or rattling when I played very high up on the G string, and a second problem that we'll get onto later. However, this was completely user error on my part. So when you get your Trent Guitars Offset Bridge, just make sure that these outer 2 grubs are adjusted properly so that they're pressing their bottoms against the surface of the base plate to make sure they have the correct amount of tension on them to ensure that it all works as it's supposed to. Alright, so moving on to the positives now. So I've been testing this bridge for a good few months now, and I've used it in all sorts of different environments, from frantic heavy-handed band context playing to more serene and gentle playing at home, recording demos and making YouTube videos. So how have I liked it? Well, the first positive of the Trent Bridge is that it remedies all of the biggest issues of traditional offset bridges, and it is super reliable, even under really heavy playing for a prolonged period. Used in a band context, there was no syncing of the bridge whatsoever, even under the most extreme heavy playing conditions I could possibly throw at it. The locking nuts that are built into the leg design work perfectly to ensure that the bridge will never sink or fall down or move in an unwanted way while you're playing. I also didn't experience any issues of the bridge falling all the way backwards like you get on some rocking offset bridges. It always returned really reliably to its neutral resting point, again even under really heavy picking and palm muting, and even under really aggressive vibrato use as well. The extra grippy saddles really do make for an exceptional rocking bridge experience, and I would say it is on par with the performance of the Tuffset in this regard. Again, despite trying to beat the living daylights out of this bridge, I found no issues of the strings popping out of the saddles at all, so this will be an excellent choice for a really heavy-handed player. Once I'd corrected my user error and got the bridge set up properly, I didn't have any issues of buzzing or rattling with this bridge whatsoever either. And when I was playing, I didn't have to think about the bridge at all. It was just super stable, rock solid and reliable. It performed exceptionally, it didn't get in the way, it didn't cause me any issues, and I could just get on with playing. And that is everything I'm looking for in an offset bridge design. But on top of these general improvements over a traditional offset bridge, which really I would want for any good offset bridge upgrade, there were a number of other positive factors that were unique to the Trent Bridge. The first of these is the ease of use of the Trent Bridge. I love Elliott's locking leg solution. It's just so simple and effective. You don't have to mess about with locking and unlocking the legs. They just lock themselves in place automatically, and you don't have to worry about it or think about it at all, and they're so easy to adjust as well. As previously mentioned, I love that all of the height adjustment grubs are the same size for both the saddle height and the leg height. And the tolerances on the saddle height grubs are really good as well, and you don't need any Loctite on them whatsoever. They just stay in place perfectly once you've got them set up correctly, and you just don't have to worry about them moving or the radius changing or any annoying noises or anything like that. It just works perfectly out of the box. Next, the bridge is just really comfortable. As I've mentioned before, you don't have to think about it when you're playing. It doesn't get in the way at all. I didn't notice any discomfort when I was using it at all, and it is a total game changer to have all of these saddle height grubs beneath the surface of the saddles. It does take a little bit of time to adjust to the 54mm string spacing on this bridge, but once you do, it's actually a very comfortable experience. Especially if you are a hybrid picker like me, or if you do a lot of finger picking, just having that marginal amount of extra room between the strings for your fingers to fit in is actually a very comfortable and enjoyable playing experience. Next, moving on to the aesthetic of the bridge, I was actually a little bit unsure about the look of this design when I first saw it released online, but actually having got it, I think it looks sick on this guitar. It's original and different, but without looking ugly or out of place on an offset guitar. The surface of this bridge also produces a really lovely kind of shimmering shine to it when it hits the light, which I really like. And I haven't seen anything like that on any other offset bridge. And I really like how the light reflects off this bridge base. It really is unlike any other bridge in that regard. I think it's actually really hard to come up with an original bridge design that doesn't just look like a Stay-Trem or a Mastery or a Highland, but I think Elliot has done a really excellent job here. And actually on an offset guitar, I think it looks really nice. The next thing that really pleasantly surprised me about this bridge is the capability it has for producing really usable behind the bridge playing sounds. Now, I normally prefer a V-shaped groove with a really precise and narrow contact patch for getting the most out of behind the bridge playing. I just find that somehow creates a more focused or articulate behind the bridge note. However, I found the Trent bridge to be surprisingly good for behind the bridge playing, and it was able to pick up a lot of the nuances that I was doing with my left hand as well whilst playing behind the bridge. I also love the tone that the Trent bridge produces. This bridge produces a really tight, punchy and twangy tone that I personally really enjoy. In my experience, this is the most percussive and most twangy sounding offset bridge, and it produces a tone that I think is really aggressive and articulate, and I personally really like that. And for this particular guitar, which sometimes can be a little dark or lackluster sounding acoustically, it does a really nice job of brightening the instrument up, which again, I really love. Lastly, this bridge is actually a great option for bass 6 players. If you contact Elliot when you place the order, he can supply the bridge with a set of bass 6 saddles for it. Now, Matt Parker Bass, who has a killer collection of bass 6s and who has tried some really amazing premium offset bridges, says that the Trent bridge is his all-time favorite bridge for bass 6s, and so it's going to be an excellent choice for you if you play bass 6. Okay, now it's time for a quick tone test of the Trent bridge. And today we're going to compare it against the Squier bridge, the Tuffset bridge, and the Bensonite bridge. If I was asked to summarize the tone of the Trent Bridge, I would say that it is full and twangy, bright and sparkly, chunky with a punchy low end, and really twangy and tight. But let me know if you can hear any of those tonal characteristics in this comparison. Okay, so all of this so far has been really positive, but is there any room for improvement with the Trent Guitars Offset Bridge? Well, I have a couple of really small little things that you might want to be aware of. Now, first of all, if you are an aggressive hybrid picker, and only if you're an aggressive hybrid picker, you might occasionally hear a little bit of string skipping in the saddles. Now, this only happens if you pluck the string really hard and aggressively, but if you really get into it and you really yank on that string, the string might skip a little bit in that U-shaped groove. However, if you're not a hybrid picker, or if you're a hybrid picker that can play with finesse, then this will never be a problem for you. Secondly, the look might not be for everyone. It is very unusual to have a rectangular bridge on an offset guitar. I personally think it looks really cool and original, but if you are a die-hard traditionalist, having a rectangular bridge bass with 3 saddles on it might not be for you. Thirdly, as mentioned earlier, it won't fit a Fender mute without a tiny bit of adjustment with a file to your Fender mute plate, but for most players, this isn't going to be an issue. And lastly, just to reiterate my earlier warning about making sure that you set all 6 height adjustment screws for the saddles. If you've watched the whole video so far, you will remember that I initially didn't set the height for these outer 2 screws, and this meant that they initially caused a little bit of a buzz or rattle because their bottoms weren't pressing against the base plate here, so they weren't under the full amount of tension that they were supposed to be under. And this also meant that during a really heavy-handed band practice, these outer screws also did slowly undo themselves and ended up sticking really far out of the saddles. Luckily, I brought the Allen keys with me just in case, and I noticed it in time before they came completely unscrewed. And once I adjusted them properly so that they bit nicely in the threads and were applying pressure against the base plate, they stayed perfectly in place and did not come loose or unscrewed again whatsoever. And it completely remedied that issue of the buzzing that I mentioned at the top of the video. So please do just make sure that you set this bridge up properly, unlike me, to avoid my user error. Once set up properly, everything will stay perfectly in place. So just make sure you pay attention when you're setting up the bridge. Alright then, so with all of that being said, do I recommend the Trent Guitars Offset Bridge? I have to say, I've really grown to love this bridge over time. At first, I have to be honest, I wasn't sure about the non-traditional aesthetic or the wider 54mm string spacing, the really bright sparkly high end, and I have to be honest, my user error put me off a little bit as well. However, having acclimatized to the look, feel and sound of the Trent Bridge, and having realized and corrected my user error, I have to say, I really like it. I think it is the perfect tonal and aesthetic match for this guitar, and actually I kind of never want to take it off. I feel like this bridge is the guitar hardware equivalent to cask ale, made by real people, using traditional methods and simple tools, designed for the working musician. Effective and built to last, a dying art form and underappreciated, and really killer and tasty if you give it a chance. If you're looking for an expertly made offset bridge that will never sink or fall down, and which rocks with great precision and reliability, for under £140, you have 3 choices: the Stay Trem, the Bensonite, and the Trent Guitars Offset Bridge. The Trent Guitars Bridge offers excellent rocking functionality with no buzz or rattle to speak of, and absolutely no Loctite required on any of the components. It's got a super punchy tone that's very bright and sparkly, with the most twang I have ever found in an offset bridge, and it comes with a unique aesthetic that's really original and cool. Okay, so who is the Trent Guitars Offset Bridge for? Honestly, I think this bridge is for anybody who's looking for an excellently functioning, rocking offset bridge. This bridge would also be a great option for someone who's looking to get a bit more of a percussive punch or more twang out of their offset guitar, or for a Jaguar player who's looking to get more of a telly sound out of their offset guitar. This bridge would also suit someone really well whose guitar is just a little bit dull and lackluster acoustically, and they want to give it a bit more brightness and liveliness to the acoustic sound. It might not suit someone very well whose offset guitar already has an excessively bright acoustic voice. You might want to look for a bridge with brass saddles if that's the case. And it might not suit a person who has a very strong preference for a fully vintage offset bridge aesthetic. But otherwise, this is a really excellent offset bridge upgrade for any offset guitar player. So there you go, another excellent offset bridge upgrade for us offset guitar players. This really is an excellent bridge upgrade and I would honestly highly recommend it. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on the design and the look of the bridge, as well as your feedback from the tone test on this bridge as well. As always, please do like this video, share any thoughts you have with me off the back of this video in the comments section below, or any questions that you have that I haven't answered already. Please subscribe to the channel as well. I've got loads more offset bridge reviews coming, as well as offset vibrato reviews, and I do have other more general non-hardware related offset guitar videos as well. Well, that covers everything for today's video. I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable and informative, and I would love to hear from you if you have a Trent offset guitar bridge, or if you're going to buy one now off the back of this video. Alright then, well, until next time, take it easy, look after yourselves, and we'll see each other again soon.